Right, so let's settle for the details. My name is Elton Bob, and you can join us with your comments, your questions via our social media handles. And it's something that is going to generate controversy from now till December. President Akufo-Addo is a man who has never hidden his pride in the impact the free senior high school program is having on the country's youth. As he prepares to leave office in the next 6 months, he's eager to protect this as his legacy and prevent any future government from scrapping it. Today, he has laid before Parliament a bill which will make it law and make it difficult or impossible to scrap it. Here is the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, announcing the plan on the floor of Parliament this morning.
The Minister of Education will present the free SHS bill to Parliament. You know, the Chapter 5 of the Constitution provides some aspirational indicatives. Those are not justiciable. But once, by policy of government, an aspiration, as envisaged by the Constitution, is put into action, then to make it justiciable, you enact. In other words, there are provisions in the Constitution that you cannot enforce. You cannot claim rights to those provisions. The fact that they are there does not mean that you can apply to the court to enforce those rights. They are merely, should I enforce certain rights and give rights and take certain actions. So I think that this free SHS bill, if we consider as a house, what that means is that it becomes mandatory for government to implement this. Unless it is repealed, no government would have the right to say, I am not going to enforce free SHS, because now there's a law. So if you fail, a citizen can apply to the court as his bona fide, and the court would exact justice in that citizen's favor. So that is the good news about this bill.
So that is the intention of government now, as announced by the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, at a news conference before proceedings started in Parliament this morning. This afternoon, we'll scrutinize the details of the law and speak to experts about it. Here's what we know about the program so far. And before we understand what the bill entails, this is what we know. So the free SHS in 2016, in terms of total enrollment, in 2016, about 851,312 entered the free SHS, entered the senior high school. And as at the end of 2022, the program alone, in terms of figures, has over 1 million people attending. So this is what you have on your screens is the increment in terms of enrollment from 2017, when the program was first introduced, from 362,000 all the way to 2018. It went to 432, came down to 404 in 2019-2020 academic year, went up at 425 in the 2020-21 academic year, 463,000, and then as at the end of 2022-2023 academic year, we had to get the figures for this year. The number of yearly enrollment has risen from 362 to 448,214 as of the 2022-2023 academic year. So there's been monumental increment. In terms of government funding, between 2012 and 2024, as we speak, government has spent 15.6 billion Ghana cedis on the running of the free senior high school program. That is the information we have, and this is coming from the Ministry of Finance 27-2024 academic year. So budgetary allocation is risen from 400 million in 2017, went to 1.1 2018, 1.6 2019, 2.4 2020, came down to 1.9, 2021, went up to 2.2, 2022, 2023, 2.9. And as we speak, so far, the expenditure, or what government is projected to spend on the free senior high school program, stands at 2.76 billion Ghana cedis. And so, in terms of budgetary allocation, there's a difference between how much government project to spend and how much actually goes into the running of the program in terms of the releases. So, in 2017, the government allocated 480. The actuals was actually 400 million. In 2018, the budgetary allocation was 1.13. The actuals was almost the same. So government spent the entire amount. 2019 was 1.6, but the actual expenditure was 1.2 billion. 2020, the budgetary allocation was 2.4 billion. However, government spent only 1.4 billion on the program. And in 2021, the budgetary allocation or government projection was that it was going to spend 1.9 billion on the free senior high school program. It ended up spending just a little over 1 billion Ghana cedis in 2021. Even though in terms of budgetary allocation and actual releases, there's a bit of non-correspondence, but what is instructive is that government expenditure in the free senior high school program has seen yearly rise in terms of 2017 up until what we have now. So the credibility as you have it. So in 2017, for example, when the program was first introduced, government went beyond how much it had projected. So government spent 120% more government spent more than it projected. Then it began to come down. So in 2018 academic year, it came down to almost 100%. But then 2019-20, 76%, 2020-21, 58%, 2021-22 academic year, government projection, only half went into actually the running of the free senior high school program. And that is what we have. So the challenges has always been sources of funding, limited accommodation for students, feeding challenges, limited access to learning materials. It's been a recurring challenge since the introduction of the program in 2017, but government is resolute in its determination to see it through. And these are the challenges, as we know. So the flagship program, Free Senior High School, covers the full course of secondary education, has helped increase enrollment, but according to the International Monetary Fund, it is poorly targeted. And so these are, development partners in their view of the senior high school program. And they made some recommendations. One of them is for the strengthening of the primary education resources, better teacher training, stronger performance-based funding practices. These were some of the recommendations that came from the International Monetary Fund, and it's unclear whether government is working to make it even better. There have been calls for review and all that. So this came from the IMF, at least at the time that we can. So let me take you to Parliament now. James Aveji is there for Joy News, and he joins us. So James, welcome. At this news conference, we were told by the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, that the Education Minister is getting himself ready to lay this bill on the floor. Has that happened yet?
Happened yet. In fact, the indication is that the bill is ready, prepared by the Education Ministry, and by close of this week, the Education Minister, Dr. Yao said, should be in the premises of Parliament to, provide that to the Education Committee. We know that when he does that, the committee would have to sit on that and also get some interest groups, especially CSOs in education and all of that, to also have a say in it, like we have seen in the case of the anti-LGBTQ plus bill and others, where other organizations, people who have interest in this, would have to meet the committee and present their submission to the committee on that. The concern generally has been whether this has the backing of the minority on this. The minority themselves haven't spoken on the issue yet, but what the majority leader is expecting is that by close of week, the education minister should be in the House to present that. We can listen to some more reason why they would want to back this free SHS policy with a law.
The Minister of Education will present the free SHS bill to Parliament. You know, the Chapter 5 of the Constitution provides some aspirational indicatives. Those are not justiciable. But once, by policy of government, an aspiration, as envisaged by the Constitution, is put into action, then to make it justiciable, you enact. In other words, there are provisions in the Constitution that you cannot enforce. You cannot claim rights to those provisions. The fact that they are there does not mean that you can apply to the court to enforce those rights. They are merely, should I enforce certain rights and give rights and take certain actions. So I think that this free SHS bill, if we consider as a house, what that means is that it becomes mandatory for government to implement this. Unless it is repealed, no government would have the right to say, I am not going to enforce free SHS, because now there's a law. So if you fail, a citizen can apply to the court as his bona fide, and the court would exact justice in that citizen's favor. So that is the good news about this bill.
So James, let me conclude with you. So we will have to wait till next week before the education minister can formally lay this bill before Parliament.
Exactly. That's the indication we get from the minister, from the majority leader, that they are waiting on him. Immediately he brings that to Parliament, the Education Committee is expected to get to work on that until it is brought to the floor of the House.
So we also do understand that the House is now sitting. Is that the case?
Yes. The House, just before I got on air with you, the Speaker gathered the House to session, taking prayers before, just about some 5 minutes ago. The House was, earlier scheduled to start sitting on at 1 p.m., but there have been some delays. In fact, the minority before, in the morning, just before midday, announced that they would be boycotting every sitting of the House that falls on a day where their leader, the minority leader, Akufo-Addo, had to go to court. The indication is that they have earlier written to the presiding judge on the case to take leave of the minority leader to concentrate on the business of the House. But the judge had earlier declined their request. They did that subsequently, but that request was shut down. And so this morning, the minority leader was also in court. In fact, when we came to the House in the morning, there was supposed to be a media briefing from the leadership of the House, was first call, before the House go into session. And on that agenda was supposed to be a message from the minority leader as well. But Akufo-Addo wasn't present in the House to give out that briefing. We learned he was in court. The minority whip, Governor Sakoja, indicates that there was also an earlier meeting with the Parliamentary Service Management, which he was supposed to attend, but he didn't attend that. And so until the court grants their request, they would be boycotting the sitting every time there is court in session until that request is granted. And so, but before the House got in session, I went to the floor. I saw some senior members of the minority. I saw the former minority leader, Harun Idrisu. I saw the Toa Blakwa, Sam George, and others. A few of them on the floor. I don't know whether the others will be joining subsequently. But that was their position.
Right.
I'm sure by now courts have closed, and so he should be joining them on the floor of Parliament. And so that's what it has been before the session. We are yet to know what on the business paper for the day. There were supposed to be some presentation of reports from the audit service and all of that. I'm sure quite a number of things will be coming up. The majority leader indicates that this session of the House will be quite short before they go on another break. As to how long, we do not know. I'm sure details should be coming by close of day also.
Right, thank you very much, James. So we'll come back to you when the Speaker is ready for his opening remarks, and of course, the majority leader and the minority leader as well. So we'll come back to you when that is about happening. Thank you very much, James Abaji. We'll stay with Parliament, but we'll pick, reaction to this latest move by government to give some legal backing to the free senior high school program. Dr. Peter Anti, Party Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies, joins me via Zoom. We'll also be going to Parliament to speak to the ranking member on the Education Committee, Peter Nochu, and of course, also understand what really we are in for when we are also joined by Kwesi Kwarteng, the Public Relations Officer with the Education Ministry. But let me start with Dr. Peter Anti, Party. So, Doc, so you've heard government intention. The actualization of this will happen next week, but 6 months to the expiration of the Akufo-Addo administration, they want to now give legal backing to the free senior high school program. Is this a step in the right direction? Yes, Doc, if you can unmute for me. Right, we'll see, we'll try and reconnect with him, but the free senior high school was introduced in 2017. It remains a program with no legal backing. Now, 6 months to the end of the Akufo-Addo administration, they've signaled their intention to go to Parliament and get Parliament to, approve a bill, if you like, and then to give legal backing to the free senior high school program. When that is done, the expectation is that every government beyond 2025 will have no option than to stay with the implementation of the program, regardless of the financial costs or other challenges that it currently faces. And that is the position of government now. The details of that, we are told, the information, the Education Minister will spell it out when given that opportunity on the floor of Parliament to lay it and then get both houses to now, go through it, give interest parties the opportunity to add on to it, and then see to the implementation. Let me see if I can connect to Dr. Peter Anti-Party. Doctor, you're welcome to the pulse. Yeah, so we've lost him. We'll try and reconnect with him as we want to get to understand the concerns and whether or not this will have a way of addressing the concerns that people have with the implementation of the free senior high school program that was first introduced in 2017. I cannot take you live to Parliament now, where the Speaker and leaders of the House are addressing the gathering. So that is the sitting for today, a very short sitting. The main agenda will be the consideration of the mid-year budget. But before we hear the Speaker's opening remarks, because there's been a lot of issues, the anti-LGBTQ bill and other matters that is before court. The Speaker had some issues with it before the House went on an indefinite leave. But before we do that, let's understand government latest move on the free SH. Dr. Peter Anti-Party joins me, and I'm sure we can make a good connection. Dr. Anti, good afternoon. Welcome to the pulse. Right. So we'll have to rectify this challenge. We'll take a short break and return with more on the pulse.